The sky is no longer safe. America's legendary bombers, the B-52s, the B-1s, even the $2 billion B-2 Spirit, are losing the cover of darkness. Global air defense networks are closing in. But the Pentagon is not stepping back. They have just brought a new kind of monster out of the shadows, silent, lethal, and impossible to track. Do not call the B-21 Raider just another bomber. It is a flying supercomputer, a command node for invisible drone wolf packs, and the most consequential warplane the United States has ever built. A multi-billion-dollar stealth bomber built for one mission: to break into the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. This is future war tech. In today's episode, we are going inside the B-21 Raider. We will break down the stealth shaping and materials that push detection to the edge of modern physics. We will look inside its internal weapons bay and examine the kind of firepower built to hit the deepest, hardest targets an enemy can protect. We will also explore how the Raider could become the command aircraft for an invisible pack of loyal wingman drones flying around it. And for the first time, we will focus on the people inside the cockpit, the pilots sealed inside a narrow cabin for missions that can stretch toward 40 hours, the decisions they have to make in silence, and the physical and mental strain of flying a war that may begin long before anyone sees them coming. Now let's break down the B-21 Raider. Chapter 1. The Crack in the Wall of Death. Land is limited by borders. The ocean is limited by coastlines. The sky is different. There are no walls up there, no trenches, no fixed front line. Airspace is the high ground above every nation on Earth. In modern warfare, control of the sky is not just an advantage. It is the ability to decide who can move, who can strike, and who gets destroyed before they can respond. Before we break down the B-21 Raider, we need to understand how the United States turned the sky into its own operating space, and how it maintained that dominance for more than 3 decades through a fleet of flying fortresses that projected fear across the globe. For decades, American strategic bombing rested on 2 massive pillars. The first was the B-52 Stratofortress, a slow but heavily armed flying fortress capable of carrying enough ordnance to devastate entire target areas. Then came the B-1 Lancer, the supersonic workhorse with sweeping wings, built to push through contested airspace and deliver massive firepower across the battlefields of the Middle East. But the world truly held its breath when the third ghost appeared, the B-2 Spirit. This was the peak of stealth aviation, and in June 2025, the world was reminded once again why this aircraft still carries such terrifying deterrent power. 7 B-2 bombers lifted off from Missouri, crossed multiple time zones without stopping, and quietly released massive bunker-busting weapons deep into Iran's underground nuclear facilities. Then they returned home after a 36-hour non-stop mission, before any radar network had a real chance to react. The message was clear and brutal. America could strike anyone, anywhere, and the target might not even know the attack had arrived until the fire was already rising. But behind that image of air dominance, the Pentagon was beginning to see the problem. These legendary machines were starting to reveal critical vulnerabilities against modern S-400 air defense systems and today's expanding A-2s networks, anti-access and area denial zones designed to keep American forces out, track them early, and attack them before they can get close. The massive B-52 is not stealthy. On enemy radar, it can appear large, bright, and unmistakable, almost like a building moving through the sky. The B-1 Lancer has been worn down by decades of hard service, pushed again and again through the long wars of the post-9/11 era. And even the stealth icon, the B-2 Spirit, has its own Achilles heel. It is too expensive and too delicate. The B-2 is the most expensive aircraft ever built, costing roughly $2.1 billion per unit, with operating costs that can reach around $200,000 per flight hour. Its radar-absorbent material, known as RAM, is extremely sensitive. Moisture and rain can damage the coating, causing it to peel, blister, or degrade in ways that reduce the aircraft's stealth performance. Keeping a B-2 mission-ready requires an extraordinary maintenance burden, often cited at around 120 hours of maintenance for every single hour in the air. Every mission adds cost, complexity, and time on the ground. And beyond the airframe itself, its connectivity and digital architecture were built for an earlier era. Compared to newer combat aircraft, the B-2 is no longer the most modern node in the network. America cannot maintain air dominance forever with aging aircraft, overstressed workhorses, or rare technological masterpieces that are too expensive to build in large numbers. The Pentagon needed something different. A bomber with the firepower of the B-52, the endurance and toughness of the B-1, and stealth that goes beyond the B-2, but cheaper, more durable, easier to sustain, deeply connected to the modern battle space, loaded with next-generation weapons, and ready to fly from harsh operating environments when the crisis begins. As of April 2026, the B-21 Raider is flying test missions above Edwards Air Force Base. Its flight test program is moving at high intensity. The Pentagon has confirmed that the aircraft has successfully completed aerial refueling tests, a critical milestone that gives the B-21 the ability to reach targets anywhere on Earth without needing to land. If the B-2 Spirit was a rare, handcrafted masterpiece, the B-21 Raider is designed to be a repeatable instrument of strategic air power. Only 21 B-2 bombers were ever built. That small fleet still gives America a terrifying deterrent. But it also makes the B-2 a silver bullet, sharp, powerful, and limited. With the B-21 Raider, the Pentagon is no longer building a silver bullet. It is building a force that can be produced, sustained, and sent back into the fight. The U.S. Air Force has set a minimum planned fleet of 100 Raiders, nearly 5 times the total number of B-2s ever produced. And that may only be the beginning. Some of the Pentagon's top strategic planners are already pushing for a larger force, potentially as many as 145 aircraft, enough to support major operations across both Europe and the Western Pacific. That difference in scale carries a hard strategic meaning. America does not just want another stealth bomber. It wants the ability to overwhelm the sky. If one B-21 is lost, dozens more can still enter the fight and keep tearing into the enemy's defense network. The Raider is not designed to be a weapon held back for one rare surprise strike. It is meant to be used, sustained, and multiplied. When an enemy looks up, the threat is no longer a single ghost slipping through the darkness. It is a larger stealth force closing in from every direction. So, what does the B-21 Raider actually have that makes military experts and defense analysts call it a generational leap? A bomber built to set a new standard for modern air warfare. Chapter 2: A Flying Technological Marvel. For 3 decades, the B-2 Spirit stood as one of the untouchable symbols of American nuclear deterrence. A real ghost in the sky, wrapped in stealth skin and shaped like something from another world. But the world has changed. S-400 and S-500 air defense systems, quantum radar research, and increasingly dense sensor networks are slowly closing the gap. To preserve its dominance, the Pentagon did not just need another bomber. It needed a generational leap in technology. That is where the B-21 Raider enters the story. From the outside, it looks like the smaller, younger brother of the B-2. But do not let that familiar shape fool you. under that ash-gray skin is a completely different technological monster. Start with the skin of the beast. Do you know the greatest enemy of stealth technology is? It is not an enemy missile, it is weather. The legendary B-2 Spirit is, in some ways, a temperamental diva. Its radar-absorbent coating is so sensitive that heavy rain or high humidity can damage it, cause it to peel or blister, and reduce its stealth performance. That is why the B-2 has to be protected inside massive climate-controlled hangars that cost enormous amounts of money to build, operate, and maintain. But high-intensity war has no patience for fragile machines. Northrop Grumman attacked this problem on the B-21 with a new generation of material technology. On the Raider, radar-absorbent material is no longer just paint, tape, or coating applied on top of the aircraft. It is baked, compressed, and integrated directly into the composite structure of the airframe. Think of it this way. You are not painting a wooden board black. You are building the black material from the core outward. That turns the B-21 into a much tougher combat aircraft. It can sit under the brutal 104-degree heat of a desert flight line or endure the freezing cold of a forward airfield while keeping its stealth surface intact. Second, we need to talk about the art of hiding. At the center of every stealth aircraft is one problem: controlling radar waves. Imagine enemy radar as a flashlight sweeping through the dark. A conventional fighter like the F-15 is like a disco ball. It throws that light back in every direction and tells the world exactly where it is. The B-2 Spirit is more like a flat mirror placed at an angle. It reflects the light away from the source. But the B-21 Raider is closer to a black hole. It is designed to swallow the light. Look carefully at the upper surface of the B-21, and you will see one of the most important differences from the B-2. The raised engine inlet humps are gone. That matters because one of the largest radar reflectors on any aircraft is not the nose, the wing, or the tail. It is the spinning metal turbine blades buried inside the engine. On the B-21, the inlets are flattened and blended into the body. Behind them, the airflow path curves deep into the aircraft in a complex S-shaped duct. When enemy radar energy enters that path, it does not get a clean view of the engine face. It bounces again and again against radar-absorbent surfaces, losing energy until it is scattered, weakened, and killed before it can reach the turbine blades. And the Raider is not only designed to hide from radar. Its engines are buried deep inside the airframe, allowing the aircraft to mix extremely hot exhaust with colder, high-altitude airflow before releasing it behind the aircraft. The result is a reduced infrared signature, a much weaker heat trail for advanced heat-seeking missiles to lock onto. But the truly unsettling part of the B-21 is not its physical skin. It is a concept from the future of warfare: the digital twin. This idea can give you chills. Every B-21 flying in the real world can have a virtual twin running on Pentagon supercomputers. The real aircraft and its digital double are synchronized second by second. As the aircraft slips through hostile airspace, thousands of tiny sensors across its body keep sending data back to base. If a gear inside the engine starts overheating, or if a microscopic crack begins to form in the wing, the digital twin sees the change. It calculates the stress pattern, predicts the failure, and warns the maintenance team before that failure happens in the real world. By the time the B-21 touches down, a team of engineers can already be waiting on the flight line with the right wrench and the exact replacement part. No blind troubleshooting, no wasted time, no long search for the problem. That is not just maintenance. That is predictive combat readiness. Finally, the long-term feature that should worry America's rivals most is open systems architecture. During the Cold War, hardware defined power. If the Pentagon wanted to integrate a new missile into an older aircraft, The aircraft often had to be pulled into a depot, opened up, rewired, recoded, tested, and certified. That process could take 3 to 5 years and cost billions of dollars. The B-21 is designed to end that era. It is not a traditional bomber. It is a flying smartphone carrying nuclear weapons. The aircraft's hardware can remain largely the same, while its operating system and mission software evolve around it. If a new hypersonic weapon is invented in 2030, or a new electronic warfare suite arrives in 2040, the Pentagon does not have to rebuild the aircraft from scratch. It can push software and integration updates through secure military networks and satellite links. By the next morning, the same B-21 can evolve into a more dangerous predator than it was the day before. The Pentagon understands exactly how dangerous this technology could become. The fiscal year 2025 budget alone added roughly $4.5 billion to accelerate B-21 production and increase the production line by about 25%. Instead of producing around 7 aircraft a year, Northrop Grumman is being pushed toward a pace of roughly 9 aircraft per year, with the first operational Raiders expected to enter service at Ellsworth Air Force Base in 2027. If the B-2 of 3 decades ago proved that stealth was real, the B-21 Raider is designed to turn stealth into something far more useful, far more durable, and far more dangerous. Not a rare experiment, not a fragile masterpiece, but a sustainable instrument of air dominance, built to keep flying, keep upgrading, and keep breaking enemy defenses for the next 50 years. Chapter 3: The Next Generation War Machine and Its Arsenal. In the past, the idea of a bomber was simple: fly to the target, drop the bomb, come home. The B-21 Raider makes that definition obsolete. It does not enter a war zone as a lone attacker. It moves into enemy airspace as the brain of an invisible strike network. It becomes the eyes and ears of the entire U.S. military. The Pentagon calls this a kill web. The B-21 is the ultimate data relay station on the battlefield. It can link directly with satellites in space, F-35 fighters operating on the outer edge of the fight, and even submarines sitting silently under the ocean, waiting for orders. Every stream of intelligence can flow into the Raider's brain. It becomes the center of sensor fusion, the process of merging data from different sensors into one clearer combat picture. From there, the system helps decide which target gets destroyed, when it gets destroyed, and which weapon will do the killing. But the real threat inside enemy airspace becomes clear when we look at the B-21's strike package. When a Raider launches, the sky around it is not empty. Flying beside it, and sometimes hundreds of miles ahead of it, is an invisible wolf pack, Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA. These are stealth drones designed to act as loyal wingmen, controlled directly from the B-21 cockpit. They can fly straight into the enemy's deadliest zones to bait air defense radars. They can use electronic warfare, or EW, to blind command stations. They can even operate as flying weapons magazines, waiting in the air for the B-21, hidden safely in the darkness, to give the order to fire. Now, let's open the B-21's weapons bay and look at what it can carry. Inside the belly of the Raider are not just blocks of explosives. They are some of the most refined killing technologies of the 21st century. First comes the LRSO. This is the long-range standoff weapon, a new generation of nuclear cruise missile designed to carry the W-84 nuclear warhead. Its yield can be adjusted up to roughly 150 kilotons, about 10 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. In raw specifications, this weapon is about 20 feet long, weighs around 3,000 pounds, and is expected to reach beyond 1,500 miles. The LRSO cuts through the air at high subsonic speed, close to Mach 0.9. Its danger comes from the level of reach and invisibility it gives the B-21. The Raider can launch a devastating nuclear strike from outside the reach of almost any interception radar system in the world. With its stealthy shape and ability to fly extremely low, hugging the terrain and slipping through mountain valleys, the LRSO becomes almost invisible in the air. By the time an enemy air defense system hears the missile coming, the reaction window may already be gone. That is what makes it so dangerous. The enemy can be turned into ash before they even realize the B-21 has pulled the trigger. But what happens if the enemy panics and hides inside its deepest hardened underground bunkers? That is when the Raider brings out its second option, the bunker destroyer, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or MOP. Forget bombs that explode on the surface. The MOP is a steel monster. It is about 20.5 feet long, nearly 32 inches in diameter, and weighs roughly 30,000 pounds, making it the largest non-nuclear weapon in America's arsenal. Inside its body are more than 5,300 pounds of high-explosive AFX-757. The way the MOP works is a nightmare of physics. It does not detonate the moment it hits the ground. Instead, it uses its 30,000-pound mass and ultra-hardened steel alloy casing to fall from high altitude like a giant injection needle. The danger of the GBU-57 is the hopelessness it creates for anyone hiding underground. Its violent kinetic energy can punch through up to 200 feet of reinforced concrete. Only after it has buried itself deep into the center of the underground facility does its delayed fuse activate. Then it collapses the structure from the inside, turning what was supposed to be an untouchable shelter into a permanent mass grave beneath the earth. Finally, when the mission is to clear what remains of the battlefield at scale, the B-21 can bring down a storm of fire called JDAM. The fear of JDAM does not come from its price. It comes from its killing efficiency. The U.S. military takes ordinary bombs weighing from 500 to 2,000 pounds, some reaching around 12 feet in length, and attaches a guidance tail kit with GPS navigation. Its power comes from technology and method. The moment each JDAM leaves the Raider's internal weapons bay, its onboard brain synchronizes with the targeting data. It can glide through the air from as far as about 15 miles away, deploy its tail fins, steer itself, and tear toward the target with an accuracy of less than 16 feet. Packed with explosives and a casing designed to throw lethal fragments across the target area, JDAM becomes a form of destruction that is extremely difficult to escape on an open battlefield. The battlefield changes when the B-21 uses a technique known as ripple fire. It does not blindly carpet bomb like a B-52. The B-21 can carry dozens of 2,000-pound JDAMs, and before release, each bomb can be assigned its own GPS coordinate by the aircraft's mission computer. In a single pass, dozens of bombs spread across the sky. Each one drives toward a different target. An armored tank is blown apart. A radar station erupts in flames. An ammunition depot detonates. An entire air defense battalion can be erased at the same time under a storm of intelligent fire, with no real chance to fight back. Facing a machine this modern, this dangerous, and this central to the future of American air power, the next question is simple: who is going to fly it? Chapter 4: The people inside the machine. When people think of combat pilots, Hollywood usually fills the mind with the image of Top Gun fighter jocks, pilots yanking the stick, pulling brutal G-forces, and fighting through burning dogfights at the edge of control. But step inside the cockpit of the B-21 Raider, and the reality is completely different. And in many ways, the pressure is even more punishing. To operate a strategic bombing fortress like the B-21, pilots have to be selected from a very small pool of elite candidates. They are filtered from thousands of applicants through a long and unforgiving process. A candidate needs a college degree and must pass some of the strictest medical standards in the military, including vision, hearing, cardiovascular health, and G-force tolerance. For strategic bombers like the B-2 and B-21, pilots are also usually expected to have at least 1,000 flight hours on other aircraft before they can even apply. This is not just about flying skill. It is about surviving inside a billion-dollar prison. Before and during long missions, these pilots prioritize high-energy foods that create as little waste as possible. The goal is simple: reduce the need for bowel movements during flight as much as they can. On missions that can stretch toward 40 hours, the crew has to rotate. One pilot flies the aircraft while the other reclines the seat and tries to rest. In extreme cases, the Air Force has allowed pilots to use go pills, often associated with drugs like modafinil, to maintain high alertness. Then, when it is their turn to rest, no-go pills may be used to help them fall into deep sleep quickly. For urination, pilots use piddle packs. These are plastic bags filled with chemical polymer beads. When urine enters the bag, those beads immediately turn it into a thick gel, sealed, odor-controlled, and designed not to leak. But defecation is the nightmare scenario. Behind the right pilot's seat, there is a tiny stainless steel toilet. Using it for a bowel movement inside a sealed cockpit with another crew member just feet away is extremely uncomfortable. That is why bomber crews rely as much as possible on diet control and the art of holding it in. For them, using that toilet is the absolute last resort. To train minds capable of calmly pressing the button for a nuclear strike or flying alone for 40 hours through enemy-controlled airspace, the U.S. Air Force does not only teach technical skills. It puts these pilots through a harsh process of mental conditioning. Pilots train inside high-fidelity simulators that recreate the mission environment with extreme realism. They run through thousands of scenarios: missiles chasing them, the aircraft catching fire, systems failing, and orders arriving for a catastrophic strike. The purpose is to turn the worst possible situations into automatic reactions. When they face real danger, their brain cannot be allowed to freeze in fear. It has to fall back on procedure. Standard operating procedures, SOPs. But the most haunting part is the highest level of SERE training: survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. Why does this matter? Because the U.S. military has to prepare them for the most desperate scenario imaginable. A stealth bomber shot down deep inside enemy territory, in an access-denied zone where no rescue force may be able to reach them. They have to learn how to survive like ghosts on the ground. They have to evade intense manhunts. And they are trained to protect America's most sensitive technological secrets, even if the cost is their own life. During SERE training, pilots may be left in harsh environments, hunted, captured in simulated prisoner-of-war conditions, and subjected to psychological abuse, isolation, hunger, and interrogation pressure. With the B-21, the job becomes even more complex. Because of the aircraft's advanced connectivity, its pilots are not trained only in traditional stick and rudder flying. They are trained to become data managers inside a combat network. They have to control accompanying UAV formations, process terabytes of information pouring in from satellites, and operate as the human command layer inside the kill web. In a conventional fighter, when an enemy radar locks onto the aircraft, the cockpit erupts with loud warning tones. For B-21 pilots, the experience is different. They operate inside uncertainty. They can glide past some of the most powerful surface-to-air missile systems in the world and still never know with 100% certainty whether the enemy has seen them. There may be no clear warning, no clean signal, no guarantee. They carry the strategic deterrent weight of an entire nation on their shoulders, flying alone into a silence where death may already be waiting. For the people who fly the B-21 Raider, the most brutal pressure is not the force pressing against their bodies. It is the burden of making life and death decisions in the dark, in a place where certainty never truly exists. Chapter 5. Why the B-21 changes everything. To understand the true scale of the B-21 Raider, we have to look at the bigger picture of the nuclear triad. Imagine a geopolitical chessboard pushed to the edge of World War III. In that moment, the United States has 3 cards. The first card is the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, or ICBM, hidden inside hardened underground silos. They are fast, and they carry civilization-ending destructive power. But once the launch button is pressed, there is no taking it back. Launching an ICBM means crossing a line that could end human civilization. The second card is America's fleet of nuclear submarines. They are extraordinary assassins, hidden in silence beneath the ocean. But that silence comes with a cost. Communication is extremely limited. Sending attack orders down into the deep ocean can take time. And submarines are not always flexible enough for a battlefield where events can change by the second. Then comes the third card, the card that changes the equation, the B-21 Raider. It is the one weapon that gives the Pentagon something no other leg of the triad can provide with the same level of control: escalation management. In a crisis, the President of the United States can order a squadron of B-21s to take off and move toward the edge of enemy airspace as a final warning. The enemy knows that a weapon of strategic destruction is now moving just outside their airspace, but they may not be able to do anything about it. And if a favorable agreement is reached in the final minutes, the B-21 can be ordered to turn back immediately. That flexibility is unique. The vision of the U.S. Air Force does not stop with a few prototypes. The B-21 was born to fully replace aging aircraft like the B-1 Lancer and even its own predecessor, the B-2 Spirit. That is why the Pentagon has ordered 100 aircraft, with proposals pushing the number as high as 145 stealth machines. That would create a bomber fleet unlike anything seen in modern air power. With its unmatched range, General Ken Wilsbach, Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, said, "This long-range strike bomber will reduce the demand on our tanker fleet and free up assets to support the joint force." We are watching the handoff from one era to another. In the final years of the 20th century, the appearance of the B-2 Spirit over Yugoslavia and Iraq stunned the world. It was a shock display of absolute technological authority. But a shock stops being a shock if it only appears once in a while. The B-21 Raider was built to change that. It turns that terrifying shock into a standing combat capability. It is designed to become a recurring pressure point against every major defense network on Earth, preserving America's air dominance across every major front for the next half-century. Because in modern war, real power is not simply about creating the largest explosion. It is about delivering the finishing blow before the enemy even understands what is happening. When hundreds of B-21 Raiders finally fill the sky, this will no longer be a threat. For any defense system that dares to stand in the way, the outcome has already been decided. How will the full power of the kill web and the CCA Wolfpack operate in real combat? We will see you in the next episode of Future War Tech.